Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Politics. It is July 4th, 2018, and I want to say happy July 4th to everybody. Um, First off, some happy news. I was planning on taking this week off and not doing a program. I have not had a vacation in many years, and I took this week to come down and see my daughter in Tennessee. And but I realized that I really do want to A, do the programs, and B, to have a record of the time when I was down here so that when I look back on the videos um, and the body of work that I've done, I will remember that this particular week in Tennessee. Um, so I am behind schedule, of course, with all of the recording, but we are doing the programs. Now, before we get started, I do want to take this opportunity to say that this program and all of our programs are produced and financed by the Prayer Box Ministry, and we appreciate that. If you'd like to know a little bit more about the Prayer Box Ministry, go over to prayerboxministry.org and take a look at us on our website. There's a lot to do over there. That website was constructed to be an interactive website. One of the things that we've been doing on vacation is adding more content, more shows, and different shows to the website. So go over there and take a look. It's probably still in the process. It'll be a work in progress until I die, probably. But I will enjoy it, and hopefully, the more we put into it, the more you will get out of it. So go over there and take a look at it, prayerboxministry.org. Okay. So let's talk about where we are this week as a country. Um, we are on the verge of war. There has been talk of civil war in this country to solve our problems. This is concerning to me. And it really is amazing to me. It's not like our country is in trouble. We have no outside invaders. Our standing has never been better in the world. The economy hasn't been this good in 40 years. Every single number you look at, from the deficit to inflation to unemployment to GDP to wages to employment to wages, everything is going great in this country, and yet there is an undertow of um, vindictiveness and nastiness that permeates just about everything we do. So today what I want to do is I want to try to go back and reconstruct what happened, why it happened, how we got to this point, and what can we do about it. Well, I want to start by saying when 9/11 happened, this country was united. If we use that as a beginning point, and we say at that point we were 97% united, we were behind our president, behind our country, and we had an enemy to go after. And that was under W. Was elected in 2000, reelected in 2004. In 2008, Obama came into office. Now, I am not saying this as a Republican or Democrat, white or black. I'm just saying these are the facts as I see them. This country started out with Obama being elected united and together. Um, And 8 years later, when Obama left office, we are divided. We are angry. Our standing in the world was terrible. The economy was terrible. Unemployment was terrible. Things in this country were really, really bad, financially, in every way. So then the election of 2016 happens, and Donald Trump is elected. Now, before Trump was elected, Obama has done a lot of things known and now becoming known to divide this country. His administration, we are finding now, is one of the most corrupt administrations in my lifetime and probably in the history of this country. We know for a fact that the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, the EPA were all corrupted by the Obama administration and used against his enemies. He was arrogant and he encouraged lawlessness. He used the Department of Justice, or the Attorney General, I'm sorry, Eric Holder, used the Attorney General to decide which crimes he was going to go after and which ones he was not. And as an example, he told his Attorney General not to prosecute, which he told the police departments nationwide, do not prosecute marijuana charges if there was under a certain amount. He was working on an early release program from prison. When you ask yourself who is the number one culprit in the categories he was trying to relieve pressure on, it was all blacks. The majority of them were black. That irritated all of the whites. And then the Black Lives Matter deal that started down in St. Louis. Obama's supporters was behind that, namely George Soros. Obama used those killings for an opportunity for, again, Eric Holder, as Attorney General, to go in there and rip apart local police departments by making them change the way they did things to favor blacks, to hurt whites, and to hurt our police departments. Again, divisive action. When you look at his poverty, things he did for the poor, the people on food stamps almost doubled under him. The people on welfare went up, unemployment went up. What happens when you have people that are not working and all those people on food stamps relying on the federal government? They become disgruntled. And the people that are paying for them, their taxes are going up and they're getting less benefits, and the people that aren't working are getting more benefits. Again, divisive action. The blacks were upset because they couldn't get jobs, and the whites were upset because they were subsidizing the blacks. That's the way it was when Obama was in office, and that's what Trump inherited. Now, Trump comes into office, and it took all the Democrats by surprise. It did not take me by surprise at all. I told people around me that it was his to lose, and of course he did win. Now, under this backdrop of divisiveness, the increased racial tension between blacks and whites, with that as a backdrop, Trump comes into office and immediately starts solving these problems. And I mean with a vengeance. He saw the problem with the immigration, and one of his campaign promises was to build a wall. He saw the problem with the trade, and he pulled us out of some major trade agreements. He understood the lawlessness and the crookedness of the Obama administration, and he labeled Hillary as Crooked Hillary, and we find out she is very, very crooked. there are about a half a dozen crimes that she's committed, or a half a dozen um, different enterprises she's involved in, and the swamp is not prosecuting her. Again, divisive action. It appears to the country that there are two sets of rules, one for the rich and connected and one for everybody else. And we're seeing that played out because the swamp is taking care of the Clintons. More divisiveness. Um, the Democrats were so arrogant and so confident that Hillary would win that Trump took them totally by surprise. And instead of acknowledging the win and accepting it gracefully, like most presidents have done in the last 220 years, they became vindictive. They did nasty things like they planted spies inside the Trump administration. They started false stories about Russia collusion. They lied, cheated, and connived to get a special prosecutor. They have cajoled innocent people and ruined their lives for the sake of getting Trump. Um, and yet Trump keeps going. Uh, the jobs, as I went down the list before, everything is looking great. He got the nation's biggest tax cuts, and America is holding their head up high right now around the world. So Trump wins. Trump wins the presidency, and when he gets in there, he finds out how dirty Obama has been playing. As an example, everybody in the executive branch and everybody in the departments I mentioned earlier, what Obama has done has taken all of the presidentially appointed positions that he possibly could and changed those positions into civil service jobs, and then put people in there that were all left-wing Democrats. The reason he did that is civil servant cannot be fired, and it takes away appointees, political appointees for Trump. What does that mean? That means we are now a year and a half going on 2 years into the Trump administration, and he has very few of his people put into office, and what offices there is are still being run by Obama holdovers because he can't get appointees into civil service jobs, and still Trump wins. So he finds that out, and then he finds out that it's not just Republican versus Democrat now, it's establishment versus Tea Party, and the leadership in the House and Senate for the most part is establishment, and they are slow walking his appointments through to a snail's pace. And the responsibility for that lays mostly with Mitch McConnell. So the Senate does nothing. Um, Trump, as he comes into office and before he gets into office, taunts the press and calls them what they are, fake news, and totally biased. Again, we're a year and a half going on 2 years into this administration, and the amount of negative press Trump gets is somewhere between 90 and 95% negative press nationwide. And one of the things that irritates the press is that Trump is using Twitter to bypass the press. Up to this presidency, they held the people in the country got their news from mainstream media, and they got their information from the daily press briefings. And now Trump is still doing the daily press briefings, but anytime they get something wrong, he goes right to Twitter and corrects it. He's going past the press, and it's irritated the heck out of him. The only hope the Democrats are hanging right now is on the special prosecutor, which they've got nothing. They've had nothing. They keep manufacturing bogus things. Um, just this week, they had a committee meeting where Trey Gowdy told told Rod Rosenstein, if you've got anything, show it. if you don't wrap it the hell up. And so that's where we are. And Trump keeps getting his agenda through piece by piece. He keeps winning in spite of the Democrats and the establishment Republicans and the press, all after him 24/7, and he still keeps managing to get his stuff through by sheer will. The Americans, as a general rule, love him, and they love his attitude of never say die. And the establishment and the Democrats and the press, they just don't understand that. So we recently did a program on the Right Wing Reverend called 500 Days. And what we did is we talked about the accomplishment from the end of 365 days to the 500-day mark in his administration and the amount of things that he's got done. And one of the things that he's done is he is dismantling the Obama legacy piece by piece. The Obamacare, all of the regulations that he had put on business to choke them. He has brought jobs back from overseas. The trade balance and the Iran deal. He's building our military back up, and our GDP went from 1.5% to about 3%. He's doubled our GDP. And the Democrats find all of this irritating and hard to handle. And like I said, the only hope the Democrats have had is that Mueller got nothing. Every time they think they got Trump beat, Trump ends up outsmarting them and out manipulating them and outplaying them. This immigration battle with the kids being separated from the parents is just the latest example. The economy is doing great. Biggest tax cut in history, like I said before. Unemployment's doing great. He has set a record for the most number of judges to be appointed. And this week we found out he's going to get a chance to nominate his second Supreme Court justice, which is awesome. North Korea, it appears he's going to have an opportunity to end the Korea War, which no president has done since the 1950s. All of these things are happening. The Democrats have gotten nothing. They've pinned their hopes on a failing Bob Mueller, the special prosecutor, Stormy Daniels, who's an adult film store that's lying about Trump. And the Democrats have found themselves in a position of defending open borders and MS-13 people crossing over, and they're doing it with lies. So this is the background for the last 2 or 3 years, and it appears that it is out of frustration that the Democrats are the ones that are mostly responsible for this. As an example, the press secretary this last week was out to dinner with her family, and the owner of the restaurant called some friends and they harassed them in the restaurant. So she went home and the rest of the family went to a restaurant across the street. They followed them over there and harassed them over there. The next day, Maxine Waters comes out and incites violence nationwide by saying everybody from the Trump administration should be harassed when they're in public. Nobody gets peace. Harass them, draw a crowd, yell them down, scream at them. And the Democrats are openly calling for this. Now, remember, up until this point, when one administration comes in and another one goes out, this country has always been known for the peaceful transfer of power. This is not happening this time under the Democrats. This nastiness started under the Democrats. The Democrats are the ones continuing it. And as it gets closer to the midterm elections, they keep escalating this. They are now outward and visibly calling for harassment of Trump followers, not just followers and not just administration people, but in now, for those of you that know your history, you will know that in potbelly dictatorship countries and socialist countries, this is how they fight. Usually ends up in war or a gun battle, and then we go from democracy to either socialism or to totalitarianism. So that leads us in this manner. I've talked about the character assassination and Trump's people. They're telling lies in the press. I mean, it appears that every day in the mainstream media there is a lie perpetrated and backed up by anonymous sources with nothing concrete, but just a character assassination on. Well, we had a technical difficulty there. Well, we had a technical. Well, we had a technical difficulty there. I have no idea how long this gap is going to be, but I hope it turns out all right. I hope it turns out all right. But I'm going to push ahead and we'll see what happens at the end. We were talking about how the Democrats we're fighting. We talked about character assassination, and we were talking about the lies in the press. It seems like a daily ration of lies about the president, his administration, or something connected with it, all in an effort to undermine the Trump administration. And what the press and the establishment is learning is the American people don't care about that. We care about results, and Trump is delivering without any help. And that's the amazing part, without any help. The, the Democrats are facing constant disappointment in the things that they think are true. They still have no idea why Trump won. They have no idea what the American people want, what they are demanding, and what they are not willing to settle for anymore. And it's because they're not listening. It's because the negativity that they are projecting and they are giving out, that is the reason for the disgruntlement in the country, because the Democrats in this country, the people, are believing what their leaders are telling them. And it's all lies. But the Democrat people in the country believe their leadership, and the leadership is lying to them on purpose to sow discord. And it's all in their minds for the leadership. It's all about the 2018 election. They're trying to motivate their low information people to go to the polls. What they don't understand is that the Tea Party people, the mainstream Republicans in the country, and some of the conservative Democrats are going to go over, and Trump and his people are going to win big time. And the Democrats still have no idea why. From the press's standpoint, and from the Democrat standpoint, and from the establishment Republican standpoint, everything is Trump's fault, from global warming to breaking up families on the border to talking too tough with North Korea, we're going to cause a nuclear war. And then every time they say something, it turns right around and it becomes an executive order from Trump that solves the problem, a possibility of denuclearization and ending the Korea War with North Korea. It always turns around with egg on their face. And the Democrats and the people in the country that are Democrats are getting tired of having it shoved in their face. And that is not Trump's fault. That's their leadership and the press's fault. The Democrat leadership on a federal, state, and local level are all encouraging threatening behavior to Trump followers. I've said this earlier, and it continues to happen. Any day you can pick up the paper and see people just walking up to people with a Trump shirt or Trump hat on and beating them up, punching them in the face, hitting them upside the head, just because of that. And these are the things that is going to escalate, where one of these people are going to have a pistol and pull it and shoot people. And when that happens, because of the Democrats, that will be the spark that starts the war. I did a program right after, well, actually during the Obama administration and right after the Trump administration started. And I went down a list of things that I believe it's either treason, and I can't remember the other term, where they are openly dissenting and openly encouraging violence against the current administration. You know, Hillary Clinton knowingly sells 20% of our uranium to our enemy, Russia, and nobody's talking about treason. Nobody's talking about that at all. Bill Clinton openly takes bribes to make things happen. He's not prosecuted.
when people encourage public uh, uh, violence on behalf of the administration, in my mind, that's treason. It's okay to work, it's okay to voice your opinion, but it's not okay to incite violence, to encourage harassment of other Americans, um, and to disrupt businesses. Uh, None of that is okay. The Democrats' main tool is to demonize their opponents. They go after them, they tear them apart, they rip them apart, they destroy their lives on purpose. Look at all of the people Mueller has gone after. He has gone out to purposely, totally, completely, publicly humiliate, annihilate, bankrupt, and put into jail. And then he hopes to turn them, whether it's truthful or not, to say something against Trump. And none of them have, because there's nothing there. But they're doing that to anybody that follows Trump and the Trump administration. They are outwardly and visibly and purposely out to destroy, annihilate, and completely humiliate publicly anybody associated with Trump. And that is wrong. That is wrong. So what are some of the things we can do? Should Trump stop winning? Absolutely not. I think that the leadership for the Democratic Party needs to uh, first acknowledge the fact that you lost, and you lost because you were out of step with the American people. Acknowledge that, accept that, and move on. Stop inciting violence. Put a gag order on your loudmouth, low IQ people that have no clue what they're talking about. Shut them up and encourage, as an example, in uh, the House and Senate, when the Democrat leadership tells the Democrats how to vote, they vote lockstep. When Trump passed the largest tax cut in American history, not one Democrat voted for it, not one. That means that the leadership is threatening their own people on the Democratic side. They need to stop that and allow the way politics gets done is by compromise, not by stalling and lying and cheating and manipulating. That is not how things get done in a democracy. The Democrats are purposely being a roadblock for anything. And the funny part is Trump just keeps winning. His agenda keeps getting through even without them. And now because of that, the Democrats have nothing they could run on this time. They have nothing they could say, look at what we did. Not one thing. The Democrat leadership needs to shut their mouth and have their people shut their mouth and start trying to find an item that you can work with on Trump and get an agreement, and let's at least attempt to work together. Now, the Democrats, likewise, when Obama was in office, they were equally nasty then. They were not the least bit interested in compromise. They broke the cloture rule, and now they're crying foul when we threaten to do it. And Mitch McConnell won't do it except for judges. He didn't do it for the budget, which he should have. He needs to. The Republicans need to fight just like the Democrats did to reverse all the garbage that the Democrats did, and then let's go back to acting like a democracy instead of a pot-belly dictatorship. Also, the press needs to stop being so one-sided. The press has been one-sided for years. For as long as I've been alive, I can remember Nixon complaining that the press was lopsided and one-sided, and it was. And it became obvious at the age of computers, when we could find out the truth and the facts for ourselves, and we could double check the press. Then it became obvious that they were as crooked and as left-wing as they came. To be a reporter at one point used to have a little bit of pride to it. There's no pride in it. That's just another name for a Democratic hack. That's what a press person is. They have totally bastardized that profession. And for the honest kids getting out of school that want to spend their career doing journalism, I'm sorry, but the people before you absolutely ruined your profession. You are less liked than used car salesmen or cell phone salesmen. People in the press are liked less than those people. If they want to return a little, they need to at least give Trump 50-50 coverage. You want to be negative? Okay, do it 50%, but also do positive 50%. You can have the same story and spin it two different ways. Why don't you try doing that? Everybody needs to take a breath, take a step back, and make an effort, real or not, but make an effort to work together. Stop using divisive language, nasty verbiage, and scorched earth policy. Stop doing that. Let's try working together as Americans, and not right versus left. Let's work together as Americans. And I think this is an appropriate talk on July 4th. We might be Republicans, we might be Democrats, we might be independents, we might be black, we might be white, we might be female, we might be male, but we are all Americans. Let's start acting like it. And we can start with the House and the Senate, and let's work our way down. Now, when I end these programs, I'd like to talk about current events, just so we have a video record of what's going on in the country, and a time and a date that happened, so that we don't have to go back and rely on newspaper accounts that are written by liberals. And this week, I was talking about Mitch McConnell before, and that he needs to break that cloture rule, and the only time he does is with judges. So, and the one time he did do it, we got Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. So, Mitch McConnell gets a thank you for holding the Supreme Court seat open when Obama was the president, and allowing Trump to come in to appoint that. Mitch McConnell held that nominee up, and it did not get voted on. He gets a thank you for that, and also a thank you for breaking the cloture rule for Neil Gorsuch. Also this week, the Supreme Court upholds the travel ban 5-4, which it shouldn't even have been 5-4. Again, the Supreme Court is politicized. There's 5 conservatives and 4 liberals, and the vote was 5-4. I mean, I'm glad it came out our way, but it shouldn't be. It is spelled out plainly, specifically, in black and white in the Constitution that the president has the power to do that. There's no question at all about that. But the fact that it was 5-4 shows how politicized the court is. It proves that the liberals on the court do not care about the Constitution. They care about legislating from the bench, which we as conservatives have been saying for decades. And this 5-4 vote proves that. The court votes 5-4 for a pro-life to be able to counsel women before they get an abortion that there are other options. There was a law from California that banned them from doing that and was forcing pro-life people to post abortion things in their presidents, they were not allowed to do sonograms. There was just a whole list of things that California was not allowing them to do. They took them to court and won, again by a 5-4 vote. The court also votes 5-4 for a case out of Illinois where people in the public union, AFS, CME, AFSCME, the people in that union, if they do not want to join the union, they do not have to pay fees. And the reason that they said that was because AFSCME is a political entity. Everything they do has to do with politics, and they deal with politics to work to get their pay raises and benefits for the union. I think it's the right choice. It should not have been a 5-4. It's a freedom of speech issue, and when you are forced to pay money to an organization that is not voicing your opinion, that's against the Constitution, and it should not have been 5-4. Again, that should have been a 9-0 vote, proving once again the liberals were wanting to legislate from the bench. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, Justice Kennedy announces his retirement from the Supreme Court. And we want to say thank you to Justice Kennedy for waiting until a Republican, or Trump, was in office to announce his retirement. That means Trump will get his second Supreme Court nominee in less than 2 years. We already have, the conservatives have a 5-4 advantage. This will give us a 6-3 advantage. And instead of picking the court like most presidents have done, Trump is allowing a ultra-conservative organization, I can't remember the name of it, to supply him with names of judges. There has been a list of 25 that possible nominees that have been leaked. Every one of them are conservative. Every one are good choices. So we're looking good for it. Again, the Democrats are being nasty, scorched earth. They don't even know who the nominee is yet, and they are already planning obstruction and character assassination and all of these nasty, dirty tricks, and they don't even know who it is yet. All because Trump gets a nominee. Trump gets to announce it, and they are going crazy. Proving once again, the Democrats are not the least bit interested in the right thing. They're not interested in governing. They're not interested in the rule of law. They're not interested in anything except getting what they want. And in the Supreme Court, they want people that will legislate social agenda from the bench and ignore the Constitution. And when you get a constitutionalist in there, that's when they go crazy. Well, that pretty much talks about the current events. It talks about how our country got to the point where we are now, where we are right on the edge of war. And the only advice that I can give people is everybody needs to take a breath and take a step back, and let's examine who we are as a country, what we are as a country, and how can we take this mess, look at all of the positives that are going on, and work together as Americans to move this country forward instead of sniping and making things do or die. Every day it's a do or die situation and a kill or be killed mode in the House, the Senate, the administration, and it's carrying off into the country, and it's going to explode if we're not careful. Now, that's the program for this week. One thing I do want to mention, I said it at the beginning of the show, and I like to close. All of our shows are done by the Prayer Box Ministry. Please go over there and check us out, prayerboxministry.org. We've added some new things over there. Also, the shows for the Right Wing Reverend have been on iTunes for a couple of years. Most of our programs are over there. So if you use iTunes, go over there, click on podcasts, and then Right Wing Reverend. and you'll find our programs over there. Listen to them. Tell me what you think. But our prayerboxministry.org is an interactive site. We're adding new things all the time. We just got our newsletter back up and running. So you go over there and check out our current newsletter. Lots of things. Go check us out. Prayerboxministry.org. Well, that's program, everyone. You have a blessed week. I look forward to next week when we can sit down and talk about this week in politics.